If you were born into the royal family, would you dare to give up your title to preserve your honor? That question, which once seemed distant, has now become a reality for Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, the daughters of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. After a series of scandals that shook the British monarchy, veteran royal commentator Angela Levin publicly called on the two princesses to relinquish their HRH titles as a gesture of integrity and accountability to the public. But the irony is that Beatrice and Eugenie have done nothing wrong. They had no involvement in their father's scandal and have never brought disgrace to the royal family. Yet, they find themselves at the center of public outrage, becoming symbols of an age-old question. Can royal honor truly endure if it relies only on titles? They were born into luxury, educated to be princesses, yet now they are forced to prove their moral worth before the entire world. The title, Her Royal Highness, once a badge of pride, has become a burden. Amid calls for reform, the British monarchy under King Charles III faces its greatest dilemma yet: how to maintain the people's trust without losing its royal identity. And in this storm, Beatrice and Eugenie, two women who only wish to live ordinary lives, must now face a decision that could alter history itself. Because this story, ladies and gentlemen, is not merely about two princesses. It is a test for the entire British monarchy in the 21st century. When Prince Andrew's scandal erupted, the British royal family once again became the focus of global attention. The Queen's third son, once celebrated for his military service and diplomatic duties, suddenly fell into a crisis of honor. It all began when his name appeared in documents linked to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Photos, testimonies, and interviews released one after another left the public in shock. For the first time in decades, the royal family faced a scandal with such devastating impact. British media missed no detail. From The Guardian to the Daily Mail, every outlet questioned morality, transparency, and the boundaries of royal privilege. Each article and news segment pushed public trust lower and lower. Buckingham Palace, known for its secrecy, was forced to respond. Prince Andrew stepped back from royal duties, and charities began cutting ties. A man who once walked beside the Queen at major events had become the face of royal disgrace. But the damage didn't end with him. His daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, were swept into a wave of criticism they had not caused. In the public eye, they still bore the bloodline of a man under investigation, and that alone was enough to make every move they made subject to scrutiny. Whenever they appeared at events, social media erupted with debate. A dress, a smile, even a vacation became subjects of moral judgment and questions of honor. The media began asking, should they continue to hold the HRH title, a symbol of power and respect, when their father had lost the public's trust? Some commentators argued they should voluntarily give it up to show separation from the scandal. Others insisted they shouldn't have to pay for someone else's sins. But regardless of opinion, the two princesses could not escape their father's shadow. In that atmosphere, the British monarchy faced a deeper crisis than a single scandal. It came at a time when King Charles III was striving to reshape the royal family's image as streamlined, transparent, and modern. Every action and every decision by its members became a test of public confidence. And amid that storm, the two young princesses continued to smile, fully aware that behind their smiles were millions of eyes watching and judging. They were born to be princesses, yet now they must face the question: do they still deserve to keep that title? Beatrice and Eugenie, daughters of Prince Andrew and Sarah, Duchess of York, have lived in contradiction since birth. They were born into royalty, welcomed in the glittering halls of Buckingham Palace, yet they were never part of the working royals, the inner circle who serve the monarch and are supported by the royal purse. This status gave them everything and nothing at once: no official duties, but also no financial privilege, freed from the constraints of royal schedules, yet never free from public scrutiny, as Queen Elizabeth II gradually streamlined the monarchy, keeping only core figures like Charles, William, Catherine, and Anne. The York princesses were forced to carve out their own paths. They could no longer rely solely on the word princess, nor could they live on the legacy of their parents. So, while many assume the princesses lived lives of leisure, Beatrice and Eugenie quietly stepped into the real world, working, contributing, improving themselves. Beatrice, the elder sister, showed early signs of discipline and pragmatism. She graduated from Goldsmiths College with a degree in history and history of ideas, then entered the world of finance. She worked for major firms in London before moving into venture capital and technology, where she established herself as a modern, independent, and capable woman. Though she still bears her title, Beatrice strives to live like an ordinary citizen, commuting by train, working 9 to 5, and having lunch in small cafes around Soho. Meanwhile, Eugenie, the younger sister, chose a gentler path, one that leaned toward art and creativity. She worked at renowned galleries, helping organize exhibitions and art events in both the UK and the US. Eugenie has also been actively involved in humanitarian projects, particularly those focused on protecting children and combating human trafficking. She is not just a princess, but a woman with a career and her own ideals. Their lives, therefore, carry a unique duality, both ordinary and extraordinary. They can attend a friend's wedding like anyone else, yet also appear on the Buckingham Palace balcony during grand royal occasions. They pay for their own living expenses, yet every move they make is captured by the media and dissected in detail, from their clothes and expressions to the way they smile. It is the price of royal lineage, a burden they must bear whether they like it or not. After their youthful years filled with constant media appearances, both gradually chose a quieter life. Beatrice married Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi, a successful Italian businessman. Their wedding, held during the pandemic, was simple, no extravagance, no spectacle, attended only by close family and friends. Eugenie also married Jack Brooksbank, a businessman working in the wine industry. Both couples now lead private lives, focusing on their careers and their young families. They have stayed away from scandal, striving to build a positive image even as their father, Prince Andrew, became entangled in serious allegations connected to the Jeffrey Epstein sexual abuse scandal. That was the period when both princesses were forced to face the collapse of public trust. They could not choose their parents, but they could choose how to face the world. And their choice was silence, resilience, and remaining true to their own values. The public was once deeply moved to see the two princesses leave the palace with dignity, asking for nothing, defending no one, blaming no one. They chose to protect their family in their own way, through maturity. The way they stood together, hand in hand, at the Queen's funeral despite the storm of questions about their father, made many people pause and reflect. Behind that calm exterior was an unspoken shame, the painful awareness that their royal honor had been tarnished by the very man they once admired. From girls raised in luxury, Beatrice and Eugenie have learned to stand firm between two worlds, one of glamour and one of reality. They understand that the title princess cannot shield them from pain. It is merely part of who they are. Each day, they still work, pay bills, raise children, and navigate life under the shadow of a family full of turmoil. And perhaps what makes the public empathize with the York sisters is not that they are perfect, but that they are so profoundly human. They embody contradictions, perseverance, faith, and wounds. They are the reflection of a new generation of royals learning how to survive in a modern age, where a title is no longer a source of strength, but a burden to overcome. Because in the end, as they once admitted in a rare interview, we're not just princesses, we're women, daughters, mothers, and people still trying to find a way for the world to see us more fairly. Yet while Beatrice and Eugenie have worked to build a life balance between two worlds, voices from the public and royal commentators have argued that such normalcy is still not enough to justify holding the title of princess. After all, even though neither sister has been involved in scandal, the shadow of their father, Prince Andrew, remains an indelible stain in the eyes of the public. Amid that sentiment, veteran royal commentator Angela Levin made a shocking proposal. She publicly called on Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie to voluntarily renounce their HRH titles, His and Her Royal Highness, the symbols of royal privilege and power. Her call was not born of malice, but of a changing reality inside Buckingham Palace. Since ascending the throne, King Charles III has pursued what he calls a slim monarchy, a streamlined royal family focused on efficiency and public integrity. In this model, only those who work directly for the crown receive funding from the royal purse and officially represent the monarchy in public life. Others, though of royal blood, are encouraged to live independently, be financially self-sufficient, and above all, refrain from using royal titles for personal gain. Beatrice and Eugenie, though born royal, are not working royals. They have their own careers, their own families, and no official duties representing the crown. Yet, paradoxically, they still hold the HRH titles. This inconsistency has sparked discomfort among some Britons. In their eyes, titles should come with responsibility, not merely serve as badges of privilege. In an interview, Angela Levin stated bluntly, if they truly want to live like ordinary people, they should start by giving up their titles. You can't ask to be treated like the public while holding on to the symbols of power. Her remark, though controversial, struck a chord with many Britons who are weary of a royal family seen as bloated, distant, and sometimes lacking transparency. At a time when public trust has been shaken by Andrew's scandal, every gesture, however small, is seen as a test of integrity. If the two princesses were to voluntarily relinquish their titles, it would be an act of profound symbolism. It would show that honor can transcend status, that loyalty to the crown lies not in the crown itself, but in defending the values it stands for. Angela Levin is not the first to suggest this. Over the years, royal experts have repeatedly emphasized that a modern monarchy must embrace greater transparency and accountability. Both King Charles and Prince William agree with that direction. They understand that for the monarchy to survive in the 21st century, what matters is not how many people carry titles, but the quality of those who uphold the crown. A smaller royal family, but one built on integrity, is what Charles seeks to create. Looking at other branches of the family, the differences become even clearer. Princess Anne, the king's sister, long ago chose a path of independence for her children. Both Zara Tindall and Peter Phillips do not hold HRH titles, live by their own careers, and are beloved by the public for their simplicity and honesty. Similarly, Prince Edward and his wife Sophie decided not to give their children, James and Louise, royal titles. They believe that living as ordinary people will allow their children to have a more balanced childhood and character. Compared to these examples, Beatrice and Eugenie are clearly in a delicate position. They do not want to give up their titles, but they also do not want to be seen as benefiting from them. They try to maintain a safe distance, still appearing at certain royal events, but receiving no salary from the royal purse. They want to fulfill their roles as the Queen's descendants while also being independent women. However, in an era when a single headline can define a person's worth, the line between privilege and contribution has never been thinner. And this is precisely what Angela Levin wants them to consider. In her view, giving up the HRH titles is not just a symbolic act. It is a way for the two princesses to demonstrate that they understand the spirit of the new era. A monarchy must be accountable to the public, not merely in words, but through actions. In a system striving to self-purify, the sacrifice of the two princesses, even if only nominal, would carry greater moral weight than any speech. For a monarchy cannot survive on ceremony alone. It must live on trust. And that trust comes only when those of royal blood dare to place moral values above personal gain. Yet a big question still hangs over public opinion. If the titles are relinquished, would it truly change the essence of a person? Can integrity be measured by a title? Or is it merely a way for people to feel reassured amidst the turbulence of faith? In the world of crowns, titles, and ceremonies, there exists something few see: the psychology of royalty, a special state where one is both revered as divine and imprisoned by the very title they bear. In the British royal family, the title His or Her Royal Highness, HRH, is not just a symbol of power, but also a mark of obligation. It represents not only status, but a lifelong vow of honor, duty, and exemplary conduct. Those who hold the title live not only for themselves, but also for the image of an institution that has endured for centuries. However, in the age of global media, where every action can become a headline in seconds, the title is no longer a protective shield. On the contrary, it has become an invisible burden. Every smile, gesture, and word of those holding HRH titles is scrutinized, analyzed, and judged by the public. If they make even the smallest mistake, it is no longer a personal error, but a crack in the image of the monarchy. The title Her or His Royal Highness has become a double-edged sword, granting privilege while demanding constant sacrifice. Ironically, the very title that symbolizes absolute power is increasingly losing its protection. As media and public opinion become the second throne in modern society, royals must learn to live in both the light and shadow of public scrutiny. They can no longer hide behind palace walls. The new era has transformed every HRH title holder into an image servant for the nation, rather than a symbol of ruling power as in the past. Amid these changes, the HRH title has taken on a new meaning. It is no longer just a symbol of glory, but a measure of virtue and responsibility. Those who hold it cannot rely solely on bloodline. They must prove their worth through action. Thus, royal controversies, from Harry and Meghan's disputes to the public trust crisis surrounding Queen Camilla, compel the public to ask who truly deserves the title of Royal Highness. Looking beyond Britain, it is not only the British monarchy facing this challenge. Many other royal families are also adjusting how they exist to align with the times. In Japan, female members of the imperial family must leave the royal household upon marrying commoners. Many of them, like Princess Mako, the emperor's granddaughter, have chosen to relinquish their titles to live ordinary lives. Her story shook Japanese public opinion, yet it also sparked empathy. Sometimes, freedom is more valuable than gold. ChatGPT denied in Sweden. King Carl XVI. Gustav once shocked the public by stripping the HRH titles from several of his grandchildren. He explained that it was to reduce pressure on the grandchildren and help the royal family adapt to the times. The decision was initially seen as cold, but later regarded as a smart move, giving young princes and princesses the chance to build their own lives without being bound by protocol. They remained part of the family, but no longer had to live in the golden cage of royalty. Denmark has witnessed a similar change. Queen Margrethe II decisively revoked the royal titles of 4 of her grandchildren, explaining that it is a way for them to live happier and freer lives. The decision met with strong resistance within the family, yet it received public support from people long accustomed to viewing royalty as servants rather than rulers. From the United Kingdom, Japan, Sweden, to Denmark, all show the same trend. Monarchy is no longer about power, but responsibility. Royal families are shifting from being the center of national power to serving society, becoming symbols of morality, spirit, and cultural identity. They understand that in the modern era, public loyalty is no longer maintained by tradition, but by trust. And that trust exists only if those bearing the HRH title truly live according to what the title represents. The HRH title, therefore, has now become a mirror. It reflects not only royal blood, but also character, dedication, and a spirit of service. Those lacking courage or integrity will be exposed by the title itself. Not everyone born into royalty possesses the qualities to hold it, and that is why, in many cases, voluntarily relinquishing the title is seen as a nobler act than clinging to it. Looking at the broader picture, one can see that the British royal family is facing the same existential question: how to survive in an era when power no longer comes from the throne, but from public trust. The king, the princes, the duchesses, all now represent not only the monarchy, but also the way the public perceives ethics, loyalty, and sacrifice. And while many young princesses are torn between staying or leaving, between status and freedom, the British royal family faces another crossroads. Will royalty choose to maintain a glamorous exterior or accept change to survive in the modern world? Ultimately, A title only truly has value when its bearer understands that nobility does not lie in blood, but in action. As many European royal families enter an era of transformation, the United Kingdom is no exception. And amidst the challenges to royal honor, the names William and Catherine have emerged as symbols of a new era. While Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie struggle to find their place between title and duty, William and Kate seem to have found the answer to the question, how can a monarchy survive in the 21st century without being seen as outdated? In recent years, Prince William has become more than just the heir to the throne. He has become the face of a monarchy of merit, a monarchy based on moral values and service. Every action, every official visit carries a clear message. The royal family must serve, not just reign. William's participation in COP30 and the Earthshot Prize ceremony in Brazil left a deep impression. Seeing the heir to the British throne standing in the Amazon rainforest, speaking about climate change and the planet's future, made the public realize that royalty is no longer just about ceremony, but about responsibility. William's difference becomes even more apparent when compared to his father, King Charles III, and especially his notorious uncle, Prince Andrew. While Andrew was sidelined from royal life due to scandal, William immersed himself in humanitarian and global initiatives. If Andrew represents the past of privilege, William embodies the future of responsibility. Images of him meeting environmental activists, shaking hands with indigenous people, or speaking at international forums spread widely. People no longer see a distant prince, but a humble, capable, and trustworthy man alongside him. Duchess Catherine, once seen as a commoner who entered the palace, has become a globally admired figure. Since joining the royal family, Kate has chosen her own path, not flashy, not seeking the spotlight, but quietly building value through action. Her projects on mental health, children's education, and support for young mothers have left a lasting impression on the public. Whenever Kate appears, whether in a formal gown or a simple sweater, she radiates calmness and strength. In an era when the British public has grown weary of scandals, Kate brings a sense of balance. She is like a breath of fresh air amid the royal family's atmosphere of controversy. Many experts believe it is Kate, and no one else, who has helped William maintain his stability through the family's many upheavals. After Diana's passing, William once said he would continue his mother's ideal, to serve the public with love and devotion. And perhaps it is Kate who has helped him turn that ideal into reality. The British media once called them the steady royals, the royals who remain steadfast in turbulent times. While other members are entangled in scandals, divorces, or moral controversies, William and Kate choose silence, action, and the passage of time to prove their worth. They represent a new generation of royals, those who do not need to flaunt their titles but still earn the nation's trust. They do not chase the spotlight. They build faith through dedication. What is remarkable is that the image of William and Kate carries meaning beyond the personal. It serves as a strategic message for the reign of Charles III. In his effort to rebuild public trust, the king needs figures who can extend the royal family's legacy through honesty and humanity. William and Kate embody that hope. They are proof that monarchy can adapt, can modernize, without losing its core values. Their presence at international events, their visits to remote regions of the country, and their everyday moments with their children all help shape the image of a royal family of service. For William, every journey is not just a duty but a commitment to the people. For Kate, every smile is not merely politeness, but a symbol of compassion. While public faith in royal titles continues to fade, people still believe in William and Kate, perhaps because they do not speak too much about honor, but always live up to it. And for that reason, their image has become the perfect counterpoint to the mistakes of the previous generation, especially those of Andrew. However, just as William is being hailed as the pride of the monarchy and Kate is celebrated as the people's duchess, another name unexpectedly appears in the morning headlines across the ocean. Someone who once shared childhood with William, who once bore the Windsor name, but has now become a symbol of opposition. While William is being praised for his dazzling visit to Brazil, Embodying a strong yet approachable prince, Harry and Meghan suddenly announced their trip to Canada. A strange coincidence, but enough to send the British media into a frenzy. Many newspapers asked, is this pure coincidence? Or Harry's attempt to reclaim the spotlight from his brother, who now stands at the peak of glory? The incident quickly reignited the cracks that have never fully healed between the two brothers. The British press split into two clear sides. One side accused Harry of deliberately defying the family, betraying tradition, and exploiting the royal name to polish his image. The other argued he is a victim of a brutal media system, one that once elevated him as the rebel prince, only to destroy him when he refused to follow the palace's unspoken rules. Both sides contain a measure of truth, because in the story of William and Harry, no one is entirely right or wrong. There are only two men trying to find their place within an institution that is both sacred and suffocating. William and Harry were once inseparable after their mother's death. Princess Diana. They grew up sharing the same pain, the same promise to protect each other against the world. But when Harry met Meghan, everything changed. That love not only drew him away from the royal embrace, but also thrust him into a battle between public opinion and power. William, who from childhood was destined to be king, chose silence, discipline, and the defense of the monarchy's image amid turmoil. Harry, on the other hand, believed the truth about what happened to his mother and to himself deserved to be told. The 2021 interview with Oprah in his memoir, Spare, became the breaking point. For the first time in modern history, a prince openly criticized his own family, and in doing so, placed the brother who once stood by him in an opposing light. Yet behind Harry's words, the public sensed something deeper than resentment. It was the loneliness of a man caught between two worlds, not free enough to live as an ordinary person, yet not powerful enough to control his own life. Perhaps that is why, when writing about him, a Guardian columnist remarked, Harry doesn't want to destroy the monarchy. He just wants to see himself within it. Meanwhile, William continues to walk steadily on the path of duty. He represents the image of a stable Britain, of a generation of heirs who understand that the crown is not only power, but also a burden. In an age when the media can reshape someone's image within hours, William chooses action over reaction. Every royal tour, every charitable project, every speech he delivers is carefully calculated to rebuild trust, something the royal family has lost far too much of after the scandals surrounding Diana, Andrew, and Meghan. The two brothers, though both carrying Diana's blood, have chosen entirely different paths. William fights with composure, Harry fights with words. One stands as the symbol of the royal of responsibility, the other of the royal of freedom. And between them still lingers the shadow of their late mother, a woman who once longed for both to coexist. The media does not merely observe but fuels the tragedy further. They turn William into a shining example and Harry into a lost soul. Every article, every headline, every frame becomes a fragment of the image war between the two brothers who were once Britain's closest pair. And in that war, no one wins. William loses the brother who was once his confidant. Harry loses the home that was once his refuge. Yet, looking deeper, one sees that the two are not so different. Both are trying to prove the one thing their mother always wished for, that a person can be loyal to both heart and duty. But the monarchy does not tolerate vulnerability, and the media never lets anyone simply be themselves. Amid all the noise, Harry and Meghan continue to appear as the ones who dare to tell the truth. Netflix deals, podcasts, public speeches, humanitarian projects, everything seems carefully orchestrated as part of a long-term PR strategy. They tell their story to the world, yet many believe they are also telling the story the world wants to hear, a story that has it all: royalty, rebellion, love, and pain. In stark contrast, William chooses silence and lets his actions speak for him. While Harry appears on television, William visits hospitals, meets the poor, and always appears with a calm smile. Those two paths, one outward to the public, one inward to responsibility, perfectly mirror the division within Charles III's reign, between honor and freedom, between the royal institution and individuality. And while the media keeps dissecting every detail of their relationship, two other people are being swept into the storm in their own way: Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. The sisters, who have always kept a distance from controversy, now face double pressure as daughters of Prince Andrew, mired in a sexual scandal, and as close relatives of Harry, the so-called anti-royal, amid the ongoing media frenzy surrounding William, Harry, and the increasingly scrutinized image of the British monarchy. One hypothesis has resurfaced in the press. What would happen if Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie truly gave up their royal titles? What seems like a minor speculation carries profound symbolic weight, because if the two daughters of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, women not directly in the line of succession, not holding official duties, yet still addressed as Her Royal Highness, chose to renounce those titles, then the entire monarchy would be forced to re-examine itself. First of all, in terms of image, the voluntary renunciation of titles by the two princesses could become a historic milestone. It would not merely be a personal act, but an ethical message from the royal family to its people that they are willing to change, willing to sacrifice privilege to regain trust. After years shaken by Andrew's scandals and the rift between William and Harry, the monarchy stands at a crossroads. How to survive in an era where trust matters more than emblems. If Beatrice and Eugenie were to step down voluntarily, it could reinforce the message of a monarchy of service, a royal institution built not on power, but on moral value and compassion. On the other hand, such an act could have the opposite effect. Many fear that if the two princesses were truly to give up their titles, the monarchy might unintentionally weaken its very symbol. The title Her Royal Highness is a thread connecting tradition and loyalty, a reason why the British people still feel something sacred about Buckingham Palace. If that thread is cut once more, the already fragile trust could crumble further. For once, people begin to ask, if they don't need the title, then what is the monarchy for? That could mark the beginning of doubt in the very institution itself. And beyond the two princesses, such a decision, if it ever comes to pass, would deeply affect the next generation. Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, the young children of William and Catherine, currently hold the titles of Prince and Princess. Meanwhile, Archie and Lilibet, the children of Harry and Meghan, have been at the center of debates over whether they should retain those titles. If Beatrice and Eugenie voluntarily withdrew from the royal hierarchy, the public would inevitably ask again, should Charlotte and Louis still bear the title Royal Highness in a world moving toward equality and simplicity? And if Harry's children continue to live away from the royal fold, is Britain gradually moving toward a royal by blood, not by title model, a monarchy defined only by lineage, not by rank? Those who support that scenario believe it is a necessary step forward. They argue that the royal family must redefine power, not through the throne, but through the people's trust. To them, the act of the two princesses voluntarily stepping away from their royal titles is proof of a humble generation of royals who prioritize honor and public faith over status. They see it as an act of responsibility, a symbol of a monarchy of conscience, a crown guided by moral integrity. Conversely, others strongly oppose the idea. They view the renunciation of titles as a sign of weakness, a surrender to public pressure. In their eyes, if even those born with royal blood no longer wish to be associated with their titles, how can the people continue to believe in the lasting value of the constitutional monarchy? For this group, keeping the titles is not merely a privilege, but a duty, a way to protect tradition in an era when every symbol is fading. Therefore, between these two opposing perspectives, the story of Beatrice and Eugenie is no longer just about two women born into luxury. It has become a reflection of the times, where nobility is no longer measured by title, but by how one faces the public. And no matter which path they choose, their decision will leave a mark in history, for it touches the deepest question of every monarchy. Where lies the line between honor and power? And in the end, beyond all the debates, what people truly want to see is not who holds the title, but who holds the people's trust. because only the people's faith can keep the throne steady, something every generation of the British royal family, whether Charles, William, or the two princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, must learn to understand anew. A monarchy cannot endure through gilded symbols or lavish ceremonies alone. The only thing that can preserve it is the people's trust, and that trust can only be nurtured when those of royal blood dare to face themselves, to look back at the past and choose the future. If the two princesses truly choose to renounce their titles, it will not merely be a shock to centuries of tradition, but a powerful declaration of change. They will no longer be called Her Royal Highness, but perhaps something greater. Women who dared to be free. To be born a princess is destiny, but to choose how to walk through history, that is courage. Will Beatrice and Eugenie dare to step out of their comfort zone and rewrite their own story? If you support them keeping their titles, press 1. If you believe that they should renounce them to renew the monarchy, press 2. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to follow the royal family's journey of transformation.